Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood podcast. We're excited to be back with another podcast. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've had ex-famous football players, coaches, and also from time to time, we bring on players who are currently on our professional player pathway program. Now, we've got a player online with us this evening. I'm going to introduce you to a young gentleman who's a fantastic football player, has got a lot of potential to go really far with his career. We've got Lachlan Olsen with us. How are you, Lachlan?
Good, thanks, Ray. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. So thank you for joining us. So we're bringing you onto the podcast because we've got some exciting news that we want to announce and share with the world, everyone who follows us on our socials, and also a little bit of an update on you and your program. So before we get into it, I think we'll start straight off the bat. When did you first join us on the program?
It was towards the end of last year, so around like October of 2023.
October 2023. Where was the event that you come in for the Pro Player Pathway? Can you remember where it was?
My dad went to it. I think it was in Sydney.
In Sydney, amazing. And you are currently based, where are you based at the moment? Where do you live?
So I'm on the Central Coast. It's kind of in between Sydney and Newcastle.
Sydney and Newcastle. So for all of our listeners who are aware of our program, the Pro Player Pathway, we run events globally all around the world, and we offer scholarships to players to come and join us to work on our full-time program, which has got 7 pillars attached to it. And then the idea is to try and get players opportunities overseas to the UK and to Europe. So you've been with us for just over 6 months, and there's 7 pillars to the program. Can you explain to the listeners watching and listening in, what's your favourite pillar of the programme, and why is it your favourite pillar?
I would say the opportunity to trial overseas.
The trial's the big one.
Yeah, for sure. It's just an amazing opportunity. It's quite crazy to me how like something like that can happen just for anyone, really.
Yeah, it's one of the big things that we've decided when we set up. We've seen there was a lot of problems, not just in Australia, but also in the USA and Canada, where there's a lot of trial opportunities getting put forward for players, and it costs a lot of money, but there's no preparation to prepare the players. And that's one of the big things that we spotted, that we could do a lot of the work with yourself and with the players and get you prepared, ready. So then when you go over for opportunities, you stand a way better chance of being successful. So obviously you had Dad, who was part of getting you signed up to the program, and it must have been a dream come true when you first heard about the program, that there was this opportunity to not only work full time with myself and with some of the professional coaches, but also to get that once in a lifetime opportunity to not only get a trial, but to be guaranteed a scholarship as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the support that you guys give the players leading up to the trial is just super important. And I think it'll definitely aid my success in the future.
Will, most definitely. Now, Lockie, let's talk football. Who's your favourite football team?
Manchester United.
Oh, we won't hold that against you. That's all right. So Manchester United are going really well in the summer. They've got quite a few signings already over the line. Is there anyone that you really particularly looking forward to watching in the new season?
I think the youngster Kobe Manu has come up through the academy. I think he's a very good player.
Yeah, he has a very good summer as well with England in the Euros as well, and nearly won the Euros with England. They just missed out on that final game against Spain. But yeah, I think he's going to be a pivotal player, I think, for Manchester United in the new season. So what age were you, Lockie, when you first started playing football? What's your first memory of playing football? Can you remember how old you was roughly?
Would have been 3 or 4 maybe years old, just in the backyard, kicking a ball around with my dad.
Just you and Dad having a kick, and that's how it normally starts, doesn't it? What age do you think you can remember when you're thinking, I'd actually really like to play professional football? Do you remember when you first maybe thought of that?
That's always been my dream, to be a professional footballer, but I think around the the under 11 or under 12 age group, I really started to like desire that for myself when I'm older. And yeah.
Now, obviously, once you started to think like that when you were 10 and 11, obviously, before you got on this program, did you seem like it was a pretty hard task to achieve to become a professional player, or did you think it was going to be relatively easy? What was your thought before you come on the program?
So yeah, before I came on the program, it definitely looked like it was going to be a road of lots of hard work, and the chances just say it's not going to like happen that often for a lot of like young kids who are just working hard in their backyard and whatnot. So yeah, I was prepared to do whatever it takes, but I knew it was going to be hard.
Yeah, any road's hard. It doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. But one of the things that we recognise as well, not just in Australia, but in places like the USA, Canada, the Middle East, is that there isn't that direct pathway for football. Like when you live in the UK or Europe, you can definitely see there's a pathway. There's definitely a route you can follow and to get into the system. But it is a lot harder. And that was one of the things that used to upset me living in Australia for 18 years on and off, was that there wasn't a real opportunity for you boys and girls in Australia to even understand how to make the first step to make it as a professional. Now, if we talk a little bit about, we roll on, how old are you now? You are
15. So I'm 15 in November.
So 16 in November. So rolling on from 10 and 11, 5 or 6 years later, you're now on the program. You've been on the program now. For those boys and girls and mums and dads who are listening to the podcast and don't know anything about our program, one of the first touch points that we do with all the players is a match analysis. Now, I take it you've done your match analysis?
No, actually, we haven't been able to get footage, but I was actually going to get mum to film my game this weekend. So
amazing. Well, that's exciting, because for those who are listening in, the beauty about getting the match analysis completed is that we draw out those objectives for you, and we can start to push it in that right direction. So that must be exciting, knowing that you are about to get your match analysis completed and you've got to get your video submitted. So is it going to be an up-and-coming game that you're going to get recorded in the next couple of weeks, is it?
Definitely. I have one this Saturday where it's a home game, so my mum will be there for the whole match. And I have around just a few more games in my season. Since I play for my school, our season's a little shorter, but I'll definitely be able to film a few games, which is super exciting.
That's going to be good. And then we'll get you connected with one of our professional coaches and get that match analysis completed. That's one of the key areas that we need to get done. So once you've got your objectives, you can start working on them and preparing for your trial opportunity next January. Now, in relation to some of the other pillars, one of the other pillars is obviously the GPS tracker. Have you been wearing the tracker for training and games over the past couple of months?
Yeah. For I think since pre-season in January, I've been wearing it, and it's just so useful. I think it's essential for footballers, because really you can track things like heart rate, how far you run in a game, how fast you run in a game. So it's definitely good for improvement in your game. And yeah,
that's amazing. It's another big key one that we introduced into Europe and into the Premier League probably about 15, 20 years ago when the first GPS trackers come around. And one of the big problems we had was, like with anything, it was very, very expensive to get the kit and equipment. But now with the prices coming down, it was an essential part to our program to get added in. And as you just alluded to, for all of our listeners listening in, the reason why we have the GPS tracker is not only does it record, as Lockie just mentioned, distance run, acceleration, deceleration, how many sprints you do in a session. It allows us to actually compare our players with players against who are playing in Europe and the UK, because we've got all the stats and data from those players across there. And it allows us to show you that where our players are maybe in Australia or the USA, wherever they're based, against the players in Europe. So we know where we need to bring it up. So you've been using that since January. That's amazing. And you're pretty much using it for as many sessions a week as you can.
Yeah.
What's one of the big things that you think you've learned from the GPS tracker? Is it taught you anything in particular?
Yes, actually, when the stats on the GPS tracker were like maybe better than in comparison to another session, I could definitely see that the session with the greatest stats was a better session, and I played better in that session. So, for example, distance ran in a session, since I'm a midfielder, that's maybe one of the most important ones in my game. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And have you noticed over since January that you're progressively getting better with some of your stats and that? You're keeping an eye on like your sprints and your distance covered?
Yeah, it's been slow. For the first few months, it was kind of just the same. But then I did start to focus on improving those stats, and they're just getting better and better each week.
Now, before we talk about the trials and going to the UK and what you're looking forward to the most, one of the other pillars is our intolerance and DNA test. Have you had our test completed yet, or are you still waiting for that to be completed?
I know I've got the results back from the test, yeah.
Amazing. So just again, for our listeners listening in, one of the pillars out of the 7 pillars is our DNA and intolerance testing. And the reason why we use this is to try and reduce the amount of inflammation that goes on in players' bodies, and also to make sure that the digestive system is not spending too much time digesting food and drink that it doesn't want to digest because it's not tolerable for that particular body. So it's an individual test. So lucky to walk through, for no one who's ever seen one of these tests, what did you have to do to get your test results? How was it tested?
So first I had to snip off a few inches of my hair, and then I'd put it in a Ziploc bag, and I would mail it over to an intolerance testing company in Queensland or something, and they'd do the test and they'd just send me the results back. And yeah.
Amazing. So how long did that take from when you cut your hair to getting your results back? Was it a few months or a few weeks? Or
I think it was around 4 or 5 weeks before I got the results back.
That's not too long. And obviously, when you got the results back, were you excited to see what you could and couldn't eat? And what was the anticipation like when you got the results back?
Yeah, I definitely thought it'd be interesting. And I was actually super surprised with some of the foods that I used to eat daily. Turns out they were not good for me at all. And yeah, I've started eating substitute foods instead of those each day. So yeah.
Amazing. So for everyone again listening in, with the DNA and intolerance test, it flags a report back to all the players and individual reports based off the DNA sample from the hair. And in black is everything that they can eat and drink, and then it flags up any items in red. And the advice from that test result is to give that particular type of food or drink a bit of a rest for 6 months. What was some of the things in there that were flagged up against you that you normally you were eating, but it told you it didn't want you to eat?
Yeah, so there was things like cow's milk, chocolate. There was some types of pasta that I couldn't eat, and they were the main ones. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular on there that really upset you, that you were like, damn, I can't believe I've got to have a break from that? Was there anything that you really miss?
It's definitely the chocolate and milk, definitely.
I was the same when I got my test done. I don't know if you remember from the presentation, but I think it was Cadbury's, chocolate, milk, cheese, bread. It was all completely wiped off my schedule as well. Now, I know from my personal point of view, when I got my test done, because when we first considered to bring this on board for the players, I wanted to test it to see how good it was and if it made a difference. And I'll be honest, since I've started following my results, like things I'm not allowed to eat is chocolate, eggs, cheese, bacon. I've removed all of these items from my day-to-day life 99% of the time. And I've noticed like not only like weight loss, and it wasn't done for weight loss, it was done just to give it a try, but weight loss, skin, nails are growing really long all the time. Have you noticed anything since you made the changes that was for the benefit?
Yeah, so before I got the test done, I had like some like brain fog, you could say. And 3 months later or 4 or 5 months later, it's all gone now. And yeah, I think super clear. And that would definitely help on the football pitch. So
yeah, it was a big one when we first discovered it, and they started introducing these tests in the Premier League. And with some of the top teams around Europe, was that they found it got rid of headaches, migraines, brain fog, congestion in the throat, because there's a lot of congestion and phlegm that gets built up from particular foods like milk and dairy products particularly. But what was really interesting as well is that about 70% of our players actually flag up for chicken as well. So they've got to take chicken out the diet. Is chicken okay on your foods or?
Yeah, chicken was fine. There were no meats that were bad for me. It was mainly just like dairy, and yeah, it was mainly dairy, to be honest.
That's amazing. So that's another big one, I suppose, for you in your journey, that maybe this time 9 months ago, you didn't have the GPS tracker, you didn't have your objectives, which you're going to do for your match analysis, but also you wasn't even aware that like this was causing a bit of a brain fog in regards to your nutrition. So you must feel like in a better position now that it is possible to make it and play professional football. Now you are actually training daily like a professional football player.
Yeah, it's just totally different. I would never have expected to feel like how I'm feeling right now, like 9-10 months ago. It's just great, really.
I'm super excited for you to get your match analysis done. So we're really looking forward to see that happen in the next couple of weeks. And we'll get you linked up with one of our coaches. So again, for mums and dads and players listening into the podcast, one of the pillars of the program, we actually get a match analysis completed. It goes off to Portugal. We get our top analysts in Portugal to analyse the game. And these analysts actually do match analysis for clubs like Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Real Madrid, all the big clubs in Europe. We get an individual match analysis completed for our players. It then gets sent back to us. We then over-analyse the top of it with one of our professional coaches who's based in the UK. So we've got coaches based at a lot of the big clubs in Europe and the UK. They'll then connect with Lachie on a Zoom call. They'll spend about an hour with Lach going through his match analysis, going through his match objectives. And those match objectives then get put into his football plan, which is our web-based portal. And then once he's got his objectives in there, he can then start working to better himself as a player. So it's going to be super exciting to get that done. Now, before we finish off, Lachie, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes to go, if you're okay just to hang with us for a few more minutes. Now, we're talking about trials. You're going to the UK in January. What's the one thing that you're really looking forward to about this opportunity through the programme?
I think it's just a different environment to what I've ever been in. So I'm excited to be exposed to that, and I'll be able to learn off that and improve from, that new environment I've been put in. I also am excited to showcase my talent to some really experienced coaches over there in the UK, and yep, that's it.
That's amazing. So again, for everyone who's listening, we set up these trial opportunities. We go to the UK in January every year. We also go to Spain, to Barcelona, and to Paris Saint-Germain in France every June, July. Part of that is that we open up opportunities at private academies, sometimes professional clubs, and then it's all about getting the players to be able to showcase themselves in front of these high-level coaches. But also, one of the big things that Lachie's just alluded to is actually pitting yourself against the players in Europe and the UK, pitting yourself against the best players on the planet and the ones who are currently in the system. Now, we've been quite successful over the years. We've had in excess of 20 players who've been offered some form of scholarship to stay and live in the UK and in Europe and to play and train there full time. So obviously there's going to be an opportunity for every player who goes on the trial, Lockie, to be offered some type of scholarship to stay and play football in the UK and Europe. When you get your opportunity, do you think that's something that you might consider when maybe you're 16 or 17 or 18, or something that you think you might take on, or do you think it's a bit too scary to make that jump too early? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely prepared to, sacrifice a comfortable life just for that opportunity to play football in the UK. So really depends on some other things, but I think, yeah, it's definitely an option to take that scholarship and play over there.
That's amazing. Now, I know there's a lot of things that you've got to think about, and mums and dads do as well, everyone who's listening in. Obviously, where they're going to be based, what club or academy they sign for, but also the big thing that's really important to us, and before we introduce this as a pillar to the programme, is also having that education support for the players as well. So part of the scholarship opportunities for the players is that we're able to offer education with this as well. So as an example, if you were to sign for, let's say it was Manchester United, then we need to make sure that you've got your school attached to that as well, because it's so important that you've got a plan B and a plan C in the event your football doesn't turn out the way you would like it to over the next couple of years. So there's that excited as well, knowing that not only are you going to also get the opportunity to maybe play and train full time in the UK, but you could also do some schooling, some coaching badges, and you'll have a multitude of options within the game of football by the end of the 2-year scholarship.
Yeah, it makes me feel really secure, and I think feeling secure is definitely a key to also performing in those trials. I know if I don't perform well, then I still have some form of backup that I can lean on.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, finally, to finish off, what's your big dream, Lockie? So if you could have anything you wanted within your football dream and vision, who would you be playing for? What position would you be playing? Would it be Spain? Would it be England? Tell everyone.
So my dream, in the best case scenario, I would be playing as a 10, so as an attacking midfielder I'd say as an attacking midfielder for Manchester United. I'd have a long career over there, and then after my career is finished, I would pick up a job in some type of sports science. I think that really interests me. And yeah,
that was the final question I was going to finish off. So when your football career is over, I was going to ask you, is it physio? Is it sports science? Is it coaching? Is it management? So you'd like to be to maybe be involved in the sports science area of football?
Yeah. So after, if I finish playing, I would definitely like to stay in the scene of football. Yeah, it'd be great.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Well, Lockie, a big thank you for joining me and everyone who watches and listens in to the Raymond's World podcast. We are super excited to get your match analysis done. We're super excited to see how you're going to progress in the next 6 months, and we're finally super excited to give you an opportunity to go to England. Now, just to finish off, for any boys and girls out there who are listening in or watching on YouTube and are interested in joining the professional player pathway, would you recommend the programme to anyone who's keen to make it as a football player?
Yeah, if it's your dream, if it's really what you want to do, definitely take it, because it's a great opportunity. Yep.
Amazing. Well, that's a big thank you from me and Lockie from the Raymond's World podcast, and we look forward to joining you and seeing you and listening to you on our next episode at the Raymond podcast. A big thank you from me I'm Lachie Olsen, and we wish Lachie all the best of luck for the future with his football. Thanks very much, Lachie, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ray.